Hey, welcome to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Chrismo, and we do the show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, State of Real Estate. Today we're talking about how to predict your real estate income, everything from... This is really kind of a part two of our show we did on Wednesday, Ask the Instructor. We were focusing that on calculating commission, but that's really just half the equation if you're trying to grow your business and really understand what impact it is that you need to have to grow a successful real estate business. So that's what we're going to talk about today, basically these numbers, breaking down this math. And what I want to start off with here, so we got the whiteboard out today. We're going to try that. We usually don't do the whiteboard on Fridays, but we need the whiteboard so you guys can see this because we're going to be working with some numbers here. And what we're going to be breaking down essentially is going from our payday. So you have your payday of the commissions. Now from the commissions, we're going to bring it down to what leads up immediately before the commission. We're reverse engineering this process. In order to be able to predict your income, you have to be able to at least predict the steps. If you can't predict the steps leading to income, aka commission, you're going to have a really hard time predicting the commission number itself. So what leads up immediately before we have a commission? Well, we have to have a closing. And really these are one and the same, closing and commission. So we have to have the closing. If we're not getting any sort of closing or anything like that, we're not going to get any sort of income. But now what leads up to the closing? Well, immediately, if we're going to go to a closing, the step before going to the closing, kind of the milestone, because that's what we're focusing on here, all the milestones basically that we need to dial into. Leading up to the closing, we need to have a contract. So you have to have a contract to have a closing to have commission. And now not all contracts are going to be resulting to a closing, so we're going to be talking about that. So you need to have contract to closing to commission. But now what immediately precedes the contract? Well, if we're going to have a contract, we got to have somebody that we're showing houses. So in order to have a contract, we have to have an appointment. So now our process is appointment to contract to closing to commissions, and really it's all, I'm drawing the arrows down, but it's really, this is the process that we're going from. We're reverse engineering, we're working from the end of the maze to the start of the maze. Now in order to have an appointment, you got to have a lead. A lead to an appointment, to a contract, to a closing, to a commission. But now where do we get the leads from? So the leads we establish from, we're running out of space here, contacts. And now how do we get the contacts? We have to have a prospecting activity. So we have some sort of prospecting activity, whether that's open houses, door knocking, cold calling, internet advertising, whatever it may be, because that's going to yield us contacts. Now these contacts we're going to try to nurture into a lead, and we're going to nurture this lead into an appointment. We might have to have a couple appointments with somebody before we end up getting into a contract, and then once we have a contract, and now not even all contracts are going to end up resulting in a closing, but that's ultimately going to result in our big final payday of the commission. So that's really the main overview of all these steps. We have our prospecting activity, to the contacts, to the lead, to the appointments, to the contracts, to the closing, to the commission. And knowing these steps alone, going from this step all the way through to our commissions, that is a huge part of it, at least just knowing what these steps are. But we're going to go a step further. We're going to be plugging in some numbers into these here. We've got a great episode of State of Real Estate tuned up for you today, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Send in your questions. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching State of Real Estate.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106, that's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you to help you grow, develop, and mastermind, enhance, jumpstart your real estate business. Brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Check us out online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Or you can also call us at 813-928-0106. Today, we're talking about how to be able to predict your income. What are the steps it is that you have to go through? Number one. But now number two, plugging in these numbers, because basically if we are going through these steps of commission to closing to contract to appointment to lead to contacts through prospecting activity, that this is the reverse flow of all this here. This is the process it looks like to get to a commission check. You have some sort of prospecting activity. The prospecting activity could be cold calls. It could be door knocking. It could be open houses. It could be going to social events. Something, the key thing that we need to do here is we need to be able to quantify this data. So what we're going to be doing now, and let's see if we could kind of maybe rewrite this a little bit, make this one linear piece. Contact and prospecting. So the first part of being able to predict your income is, again, like I said, knowing these steps. If we know these steps, basically kind of start to finish, what we look like from day one with no business to day 90, day 39, whatever day it is that you have a commission check, how this basically all breaks down. You'll have this workflow basically for different aspects of your business. You'll have something like this as it relates with sellers, something like this that relates with buyers. Maybe you're working with renters or landlords, maybe doing some property management stuff. So you might have to kind of tweak this, but overall, I mean, and for any sort of contract-related business, I mean, this is typically what the process is going to look like. Maybe we won't call it closing. I mean, maybe we'll call it closing. Who knows? Maybe we won't call it commission. Maybe we'll call it something else. But these are the steps that we have here. Now, the next part that's essential, like I said, we're going to try to quantify this, because if we could quantify this, if we could kind of attach numbers and tie numbers into this here, we'll be able to understand and predict the income, which that's the whole topic of today's discussion. How is it that you predict your real estate income? So each one of these arrows here, essentially, we're going to put a percentage on it. Now, closings that result in commissions, this number should be 100%. 100% of your closings should end up getting you commission. Now, unless you did something wrong or you're doing like some sort of like backroom deal or something like that, that's probably the only time your closing doesn't result in a commission. You know, maybe there's some other particular scenarios, but I mean, that's probably one of the most sure things out of this here is that your closing should result in a commission, unless you're being cheated, because if you make it to this step, you've done all of your work here. So that should be 100%. But now contracts that are actually closing. How many contracts it is that are actually closing. Now, we're just going to use some numbers today, and that's the disclaimer I've got to make to you guys today. today, I'm going to be pulling out and basically making up some numbers with these here, but these aren't by any means your numbers about your business. They might be similar to your business, but what you've got to do is you got to calculate this all out. You've got to go through how many commissions you have versus how many closings. And did you get 100% of your commissions for each closing? Probably should be that number, but if you only got 9 out of 10, that's 90% we'd put in this here. So let's look at the contracts resulting in a closing. And let's say that this number is 70%. So let's say that 70% of our contracts result in a closing. So when we have this number here, and again, what you want to do with your business, count how many contracts you have, how many closings you have, and essentially the math, what this is going to look like is your contracts divided by your closings, or vice versa actually. Really, we just throw a little division sign right under here. Closings divided by contracts. You take your number of closings. So let's say that we had 7 closings here, 10 contracts. That means it's a 70% ratio. So that's where these numbers basically are kind of coming from here. That's what this would mean. And if out of 10 contracts, we had 7 closings, that makes this number 70%. So we'd have a 70% contract to closing ratio. Maybe your number's higher than that, maybe your number's lower than that, but like I said, the key thing is to do your math. Look at your business, the last month, the last 6 months, the last year. If you've got data on it the last 10 years, find out what the contracts is in comparison to your amount of closings, because the whole thing about predicting your income is it's your income. So you've got to do the math and know these numbers. So let's now look at this next step, going from appointments to a contract, going from the appointment aspect to the contract aspect. And so let's say we ended up with 10 contracts. Well, let's say maybe we had to go through, I don't know, let's pick a big number here. Let's say we had to do 40 appointments. Let's say 40 appointments. Your number might be better than this. It might be a higher number than this, where maybe you have to go through 50 appointments to get 10 contracts. But let's say 40 appointments, 10 contracts. If we divide this, 10 divided by 40, 1 divided by 4, this is 0.25, 25%. Again, we're dividing these. We're dividing each and every one of these. And these should be 7 commissions for 7 closings. So if we had 40 appointments and we had a 25% appointment to contract ratio, that means we'd have 10 contracts. And you can see how this starts to get a little predictable with what we're doing here. If you know that if you have this many appointments, it's going to lead to this many contracts, you're starting to kind of fill this in here. And where you know, okay, I got to do this many more appointments before, in theory, I should have a contract. But like I said, we got to reverse this even further. So leads. Let's say that from our leads to appointments, let's say that we have to have 100 leads to get 40 appointments. So 100 leads to 40 appointments, 40 divided by 100, we get a 40% lead to appointment ratio. And that's where, like I said, you got to track these. With these numbers in blue, you want to go back, look over your last couple of closings, look over your last couple of clients that you've worked with, try to basically get the statistics on all this information and keep track of this every single day. Whether you're doing this on a spreadsheet online, you're keeping track on them on good old pen and paper, whatever it is that you got to do to kind of keep track of this here, make sure you're keeping track of this. So if we had 100 leads, 40 appointments, 10 contracts, 7 closings, 7 commissions, we'd have 40%, 25%, 70%, and 100%. So hopefully you're kind of starting to see how this math comes together here, but we're not quite done yet, because in order to have a lead, now depending on the type of prospecting you're doing, and that's where, like I said, you might have to kind of tailor this for the different aspects of your business. Maybe you're doing several different prospecting activities, and that's where this could almost branch off into different change. This could get a lot more complicated than what it is here. This is just the simple, if we have one prospecting activity to get this many contacts to this many leads. But let's say in order to get these 100 leads, we have to talk to, let's say, 300 people, or we have to have 300 contacts. And again, these numbers I'm using here, these are just numbers essentially that I'm making up, and I don't want to do the repeating numbers. Let's do 400. Let's say that we have and again, I'm just making these numbers up. If this is your business, you don't want to just make up numbers like this here. You want to actually count out your numbers. I'm just making this 400 so the math's nice and easy. We have clean percentages to deal with here. But if out of every 100 leads, we have 400 contacts, so we have to talk to, basically have 400 people that we're talking to get 100 leads, that would be a 25% again. So we have a 25% contact to lead, 40% lead to appointment, 25% appointment to contract, 70% contract to closing, and then 100% closing to commission. So this is kind of predicting this whole life cycle of the money, where we're going from basically to go from almost point A. Let's go one more step. So the final step here is the prospecting. And let's just say that we're going to be doing cold calls. We'll say cold calls. This could be door knocking, it could be holding open houses, and you'll have the different ways to quantify this here. But let's say you call on 1,000 people. It's my blue. 1,000 people. So you call on 1,000 people, you get 400 people that answer the phone. Those 400 people result in 100 leads where they're actually interested in what you're saying, but those 100 people result in 40 appointments. Those 40 appointments result in 10 contracts, which result in 7 closings, which result in 7 commissions. And then we'll just do get our last little percentage number that's in here. 400 divided by 1,000, that would be a 40% prospect to contact. So you can see walking through these here, we're reverse engineering these steps. We're starting at the end of the maze and working our way forward. If we talk to, or if we prospect, if we make 1,000 phone calls, or if we knock on 1,000 doors, whatever it is that you're doing this chain for basically, you talk to 1,000, make 1,000 phone calls, you end up talking to, having a contact with 400 people. Out of those 400 people, you result in 100 leads, you result in 40 appointments, which result in 10 contracts, which result in 7 closings, 7 commissions. And now you're starting to understand what type of action it is that you have to do to get down to a certain number of commissions. And this might end up being only 1 commission here, and you might say, okay, for every 1,000 phone calls I make, I'll have 1 commission, or every 500 phone calls I make, I'll have 1 commission, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see how this all whittles down to your income, which is ultimately what's going to be important, what you're trying to figure out here. So we're reverse engineering this. And now let's put some numbers behind this again. So let's say that, we'll do a little quick math over here on the side for figuring out commission. So let's say our average home price is, we'll say $300,000. And again, this is going to vary based on your market. This is going to vary based on your market, the market that you're in. But let's say the average home price that you sell, and not just the market in, but what you specialize in, because maybe you don't deal with high-end homes at all. Maybe your number is more like $50,000. Maybe you're just dealing with investors. So again, you got to apply your numbers here. These numbers aren't, the process here is all the same, but you got to plug in your numbers here to understand how to predict your income. But let's say we have a $300,000 average home price. Let's say on average we're charging a 6% commission. Again, plug in whatever commission it is that you normally charge for that there. Let's do some quick math here on $300,000. 6% commission would be $18,000. Let's say we're splitting that 50-50 with another office, so that brings us down to $9,000. And let's say we have an 80% split with our broker. $10.28. So that's going to end up giving us $7,200. So when you break it down from the total purchase price, the average commission you're charging, the split between the offices, and your split between your broker, assuming it's 50-50 and an 80% split, at the end of the day, your commission you're going to achieve would be $7,200. If that seems a little complex for you, what you guys want to do is go back and watch our episode from Wednesday. On Wednesday, we walked through basically calculating out this commission, reverse engineering, all that as well. So make sure you check that out. Ask the instructor. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. And real quick, thank you guys for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sending in your questions. And speaking of questions, we've got a question from Charlotte Williams coming in on Facebook. So Charlotte's asking, what do you mean by lead? I'm new to real estate. So let's define these here, because like I said, you want to understand what these all mean. So prospecting activities, like I said, this is maybe you're doing some sort of phone call. It could, or let's say it's door knocking. So say you knock on 1,000 doors, and out of those 1,000 doors that you knock on, you end up, for the contact here, talking to 400 people. So out of 1,000 doors you knocked on, you talked to 400 people, which that might even be a little high. Maybe it's not even that much. But you talked to 400 people. That would be the contact. You actually had a contact with somebody. Now, maybe you talked to them, but you didn't actually get any information. So that's where you could classify this now as a lead. So a lead is somebody that actually is kind of like saying, oh yeah, you know what, I actually might be thinking about selling my house, or I'm actually thinking about buying a house, or I'm actually thinking about moving, or thinking about something like that. That's what you're looking at with the lead. And if you're advertising online through like Zillow or Trulia or your website or wherever it may be, people might already be skipping right to this lead aspect. So you got to tailor this kind of whole chain of everything for your business, but that's what you're looking at with the lead. The appointment is where you actually have somebody. You're either on a listing appointment or you're out showing people houses. And the contract, so this is when the property is actually under contract, the closing, when everything actually goes through. But yeah, great question, Charlotte, because it's definitely important that you identify these and understand what they mean here, because if you understand what each one of these mean, it's easier to apply to your business. But let's say your average commission is $7,200. So if your average commission is $7,200 and this whole process leads up to 7 commissions, and we're actually probably have to talk to more than 1,000 people, maybe, or doing more than 1,000 calls to get 7 commissions. So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up here, because this might be a little advantageous. I can already see where this is maybe getting a little bit higher than it could be. But again, plug in your numbers for your business. I'm just kind of like making up numbers as we go here for, I mean, they're really guesses. So let's figure out 7 commissions times $7,200. So 7 commissions at $7,200 on average each. That's $50,000. $50,400. So what that means, if after we make these 1,000, whatever it is that we're doing, that's going to result in $50,400. That means that every phone call or every door that you're knocking on or whatever it is that this prospecting activity is, and this is the last bit of math that you want to do here that really kind of enlightens you and helps make this a lot more predictable, and when the going starts to get tough, you could start to remind yourself about this here, and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm doing this all for a reason. At the end of the day, I'm going to end up with $50,000, or not the end of the day, the end of the year, if I continue doing what I'm going to do, I'm going to end up with $50,400. What you're going to do basically is take this $50,400, because that's really, like I said, the end goal of what we've gone through right here. $50,400. And now what we're going to do is divide this out by 1,000. So $50.40. And like I said, this number is probably going to be a lot higher than what you're going to come up with when you actually plug in some realistic numbers here. I can definitely tell going through some of these, it is a little unrealistic to a certain extent. If you're looking for a better idea of what these numbers actually are, we actually have a whole calculator like this right on our website. If you go to tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success, do a search on tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success for calculator. You'll actually find a business plan calculator. It's a whole form where you can plug in all of these numbers and it's going to calculate out everything for you. But basically what this equates to is this prospecting activity, each prospecting activity is that you're doing, every door that you knock on or every phone call that you make is the equivalent of $50.40 with all this math holding true here. So that'll kind of get you going. That'll get you excited when you're out there knocking on doors. If you say, okay, this door I'm knocking on, this is a $50 door that I'm knocking on. Oh, they didn't answer it? That's all right. I still got $50. As long as you go out there and still knock on the 1,000 doors and all these numbers, all these percentages we just figured out make sense and they actually do add up correctly, those should all be $50.40 doors. You might have to adjust this here and there a little bit. And again, you want to continue to work this math over and over again with updated statistics, because maybe your close ratio goes down or maybe it goes up, or all these figures could actually change. But you want to keep that in mind, because that's going to really get you going when it's 99 degrees out here in South Florida and you're sweating and you got your suit jacket on and you're drenched underneath. You got to wear like the Under Armour stuff to kind of wick away some of the sweat so you don't smell. You're keeping deodorant in your car because you're out there door knocking. When all that's going on and everything's telling you to stop and just go watch some football or go hang out with your family or whatever it is, you got to remind yourself, okay, every door that I knock on is a $50.40 opportunity, even if they don't answer, as long as you have all this math worked out. And that's going to keep you going. That's going to keep you pumped. That's going to keep you working here if you know that every door ends up being $50.40. But you know, maybe you're not satisfied at the end of the day with this. You're like, oh, that sounds great that it's $50.40 per door, but maybe you're not satisfied with this $50,400 situation. You're like, oh, $50,400, you know, I wanted to make a 6-figure income. So what do I need to do to get that 6-figure income? That's how you're able to predict your income if you know this math. And we're going to pump this up to 6 figures. So using the same example, these same numbers here, what we need to be doing activity-wise to get up to $100,000 in income. So stick with us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Send me in your questions in the chat, in the comments. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Don't go anywhere. You're watching State of Real Estate.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career, but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106, that's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you to help you grow, mastermind, develop your real estate business. Today, we're talking about how to predict your income. What math is it you need to do to be able to predict how much money you're going to make at the end of the year based on the number of activities it is that you're doing. And like I said, you will need some data. So if you're brand new to the real estate business, you're going to find this a little bit difficult because maybe you don't have a closing yet. Maybe you haven't talked to anybody yet. Maybe you haven't done any of this stuff. So go to tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. In the little search bar, type in calculator. It might even actually show up under the popular ones on the right-hand side. I've got this pulled up right now. Yeah, actually, yeah, it might actually show up in the side, but if you just search calculator, tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success, type in calculator in the search bar, and you're going to get taken to an article. It's titled How to Write a Real Estate Business Plan. And what we did was we built this interactive calculator that you could actually use to plug in numbers, and it follows this same format that we went through here, of how many people you need to talk to how many contacts, how many leads, how many appointments, how many contracts to get you how many closings to achieve a certain amount of income goal. And you could plug in all of your data. You actually will have some different percentages put in here. And I'm actually going to work on this right now. I have this pulled up. I'm going to work right off of this one here because what I like about this, it does all the math for me. So I don't have to pull out my calculator or anything like that. I don't care how experienced it is and how much it is that you like to work these numbers and everything like that. We've got this kind of whole calculator all made up, so it'll do so you don't have to whip out a calculator. It makes it a lot easier. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success and search for calculator to be able to find that right in there. So, like I said, we want to figure out how to get a $100,000 income. What we just worked out right there said, okay, that's a $50,000 income. And maybe that's where you're at right now. Maybe the numbers that we just calculated out before the break were your current numbers, but you're trying to figure out what you need to be doing to increase this up to $100,000. And for any of you guys that are brand new to real estate, this calculator, like I said, it has some numbers kind of already factored in here that will definitely help you out with this. So what we're going to be doing is let's factor this off of... Again, we'll use the $300,000 average sale price. That's the first thing it's asking for in this calculator. Number one, you got to figure out what your total commission is on average. So $250,000 is what's given to you in there. Let's say in this market it's a little bit higher. Maybe we're targeting higher end homes. Let's use $300,000. And like I said, this calculator, you can plug in whatever numbers you want for any of this stuff here, and it's going to do all of this math for you. Whether you're doing it with our calculator, you're doing this math the old-fashioned way by hand, you need to be doing this math. So we've got our $300,000. We're going to charge a 3% commission rate. So 3% commission, that makes our average total commission $9,000. But this is where it's going to help you out, especially if you're brand new to real estate, for calculating out this commission here, because the $9,000, that's not always going to be all of your money. There's going to be some split typically you have with your broker that's breaking this all down. And that's going to be in the next column right here. It's got a 70% split in there, but hey, we could change out these numbers to whatever we want. Let's stick with our example. Let's say, hey, maybe we have an 80% split negotiated with our broker. So out of this $9,000, that's $7,200. $7,200 that actually goes to the agent. So that's going to be our agent commission here. So this is the first math you need to do. You got to figure out what your average sale price is, or if, again, if you're brand new to real estate, what's the sale price that you're going to want to target that's going to be your ideal. You're definitely going to have to readjust this after you have your first deal and your first closing, and maybe use that as a reference. Or once the more you dial in this numbers, the data will change over time. That's why you got to continuously work this. That's why this calculator on our website is so great, because you could go in there, save the link, it could email you a copy of this. It's good to kind of write this down every morning too, to kind of affirm what it is that you're wanting to achieve and whatnot. So we have our agent commission here, and now we got to put in our goal, what it is that we want. So we've got $100,000 in here, and let's say, you know what, $100,000, that's just not going to do it for me. That's not going to make me happy. Let's see what we got to do to get a $250,000 income. So like I said, you just plug in your numbers here, $250,000 annual income goal, and it's GCI income, gross commission income. So you might be able to walk away with $250,000, but chances are you're going to have some marketing costs, especially when you're trying to push this number higher and higher into these ranks. You're going to have more advertising costs, you're going to have admin costs, you're going to have all these additional costs eating away at this here, but you want to try to continue to grow that top line revenue, the total annual GCI that you have coming in here. So let's say that your annual income goal is $250,000. How do you get to that $250,000? Well, this calculator, what you could put in here is your closing percentage. Your closing percentage, this next step, step 4 in the calculator, you put in the percentage of contracts that actually end up closing. Now in here it's got the default value of 50%. And you know, maybe you have a 50% close rate, maybe you, out of your contracts, maybe you're a little bit more strategic about getting into contracts. And let's use it, because again, you can replace these numbers however it is that you want. Let's say it's a 60%. So let's say 60% of our contracts end up going to closing. So if 60% of our contracts end up going to closing, and this is where this calculator is nice because it's doing all of this math for you, it says that we're going to need 34.72 closings. So we'll just round this up to 35 closings. And what the math is that it's doing here, if you take 35 and multiply it by 7,200, you're going to end up just a little bit over $250,000. So this calculator is really great for figuring this out. So we would need 35 closings in this case. Now, we've got our closing percentage in there, and that tells us, okay, if we have a, going back to our reverse engineer here, in order to have a closing, we have to have a contract. And it says if we have a 60% close rate, that means we're going to need 58 contracts. Because again, we're reverse engineering this all. In order to get to a closing, you need to have contracts. In order to get to your annual goal, you got to have so many closings. So 35 closings is going to lead to your annual income goal of $350,000 in GCI if your average commission that comes to you as the agent is $7,200. But now we're going to reverse engineer this even further for how many appointments we need. Because in order to have a contract, you got to have an appointment. Without appointments, you're not going to get any contracts. You got to meet with people to get them to sign a contract. Whether it's meeting with somebody for a listing or meeting with somebody to show them a property, got to have appointments to get the contracts. And what you could put in here now is the contract percentage. how many appointments result in contracts? And the number they've got in here is 40%, but let's say we're a little bit better at closing. We're a little bit better, and we're maybe more higher skilled, and that's where these skills are going to help you out when you're trying to achieve these higher income goals. So if we have a 50% contract percentage, that means we're going to need 97 appointments. And you got to see how we have a pretty ambitious goal here. In our previous example, we didn't have anywhere near 97 appointments, but again, we're trying to get $250,000 instead of just the $50,000 in income. So we need 97 appointments based on these numbers that we have here. Let's say the number of leads, so the leads that go to appointments. So let's say in this case, because we've used some pretty aggressive numbers here, we've used the, let's go back and fill these in here. For our appointment percentage, we used 50%. So half of our appointments result in a contract, and we use 60% for 60% of our contracts result in a closing. And those are some pretty aggressive numbers. And what's going to happen if you're trying to get these aggressive numbers, they're definitely possible. And as you want to achieve higher levels of income, you're going to be a little bit more selective with who it is that you're working with. So yeah, you're literally would maybe be even turning some people away if they're not highly qualified. But what that means to you then is that you're going to have to need more leads. So let's go ahead and do a drop down, because I think the math we were working in the previous example was something I think like 50% we chose for the number of leads that result into an appointment. Because before they're an appointment, they're just a lead. But if we're trying to work with a more selective type of people that are more likely, because this part of the process, going from the appointment, this portion on, everything above this is where it starts to get really time consuming. If you haven't had an appointment with somebody yet, this person hasn't really used too much of your time. But once you get into this appointment aspect, this is where people start getting more time consuming. Now, when you're first starting off in real estate, you don't want to be turning people away because you're like, oh no, you're not ready. I don't want to deal with you yet. Because maybe unless you have enough business where you can turn people away, or you're trying to really pump your income up to a higher level like this here, that's where take what you could get. But when you're trying to achieve these higher income goals and you do have significant amounts of business, that's where everything after this blue line, the appointment to contract to closing aspect, that's your more time consuming part where it's going to require more of your time or your team's time. So you definitely want to be cognizant of that. So like I said, we're not going to have as many leads that result in an appointment. And in this calculator, it's 25%. We're not going to go up in this case. Let's actually go down. Let's say that 20% of our leads end up resulting in an appointment. So if we're using a 20% ratio here, only 20%, 1 in every 5 leads. And the leads, these are people that are qualified individuals that want to work with you. That's what classifies somebody as a lead. This is somebody that wants to work with you. Going back to Charlotte's questions that she sent in earlier. And if any of this stuff here isn't making sense to you guys, let me know in the comments to where I could further break this down. We're live right now, and that's the benefit of a live show. I could answer your questions right here and tie this in. But like I said, we're trying to be more selective. So maybe we're not working with everybody we get a lead for. So maybe that's where our number's 20%. It might be even lower than that. Again, like I said, if you're selective, because the leads are people that want to work with you, but maybe they're not qualified. Maybe they're not 100% ready now. Maybe they're not sure what they want. And when you're trying to really maximize the income potential that you have, that's where those people, you're not going to work with them maybe until they are actually ready. Because it's a lot less time for somebody to be a lead to actually turn into an appointment. Now, like I said, this is juxtaposed. This is only when you have business to turn people away. If you don't have enough business to where you could be turning people away, you don't want to turn people away, and that's where that number is going to be higher. But the moral of the story here is the number is going to be different based on your objectives, your goals, and what your business process actually looks like. So that's why it's essential to fill in your numbers here. But let's say if we're going to have a 20% lead to appointment ratio, that means we're going to need 485 leads. Now let's say we're using something like Zillow. We're using something like Zillow where we could just purchase leads. Because that, well, maybe if we're trying to achieve this higher amount, and we have money to spend on advertising on a platform like Zillow or Realtor.com or something like that, and you're doing it to a point where you can generate a certain amount of leads, that's going to cost you a pretty good amount of money. I mean, depending on your zip code, that could be anywhere from $50 to maybe $100 per lead. Let's say 485 leads times, let's say about $50 per lead. That's about $25,000 in annual cost you'd have for Zillow if that's based on $50 a lead. Now, the good news is if you're just starting out in real estate and you're brand new to to this here and you don't have $25,000 to spend, that's okay. You could reverse engineer this now even more so into your prospecting activities of how many people it is that you actually talk to and so on and so forth. You won't be able to get this certain amount because 485 leads, let's reverse engineer this a little bit further. So again, going to a lead that has to be a contact. And so let's say in order to get 485 leads, let's go ahead and plug in here whip out the old-fashioned calculator for this one. So let's say if we want to get 485 leads, how many people it is that we have to talk to. If let's say maybe 10% are leads. If it's 10%, we don't even need the calculator if we keep the numbers easy like this. So if 10% of our contracts result in being a lead, that means we would have to have 4,850 contacts. Now, this could be visitors on your website, whereas these are people that are submitting a lead form on your website. So again, you might have different chains like this, especially when you get past this blue line. This is where it's going to branch off, where this is what it looks like for my Zillow aspect. This is what it looks like on Realtor.com. This is what it looks like from referrals and so on and so forth. Because the blue line, that's not really going to change anymore once you get above this. Once you're above this appointment portion of this, it is the more time-consuming part, but this is the part where you kind of know what the steps are, and it doesn't really change depending on where this person came from. For obtaining the leads and where you're getting those from based on how it is that you're obtaining those leads, it's definitely going to change quite a bit. So you might have to talk to 4,850 people. Now, when we were doing the previous example with a 50,000 income, we had 1,000 people down for it. And you can kind of see how these numbers are kind of starting to click together. So definitely check out that calculator. Now, it actually even goes so far, step 7 in this calculator. If you're wondering about this calculator I'm talking about, it's at tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. We're going to put that in the comments, an exact link to that. Actually, let me go ahead and put that in there right now for you guys. I'm going to drop that in the comments so you're going to be able to see exactly what it is that I'm talking about. You could plug this in because this is a really great tool no matter where it is, whether you're brand new to real estate or you've been in real estate for some time. I'm going to drop that in the comments. If you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm going to put that right there in the live chat right now. So feel free to actually click on that link. That's going to be a direct link. I don't know why I was trying to tell it to you guys earlier because it's a little bit of a process to get to. That direct link will take you exactly to our commission calculator. Oh, we've got some more comments coming in. Oh, my phone's being useless on me. So let's check out these other comments we got coming in on Facebook, see if I can answer some of these questions for you guys. Let's see here. I just dropped that link in there, so if you guys are watching, check out that link. You can click on that. That's going to take you right to the website where you can put in the business plan calculator, and it does all these calculations for you. So we've got Josh Smith coming in. Realtor.com is sold out in my area. I know Realtor.com has been selective. They're at the point where, like I said, maybe they're trying to pump up their advertising revenue, and they're more selective about the people that are. It might also be in... I might be letting the cat out of the bag here, but you guys should know this. They might actually even be doing something where it's not available now, but they just take your info and they make it available just to kind of have that illusion of this exclusivity of advertising on a site like that. I don't know. That's just one theory with it, you know, the whole conspiracy theory type of thing. But yeah, so, and when you're going to use these platforms, whether it's Realtor.com, Zillow.com, whatever it may be, you got to have an established profile on there, and these are competitive marketplaces, so you got to have the reviews, you got to have the past sales, so you got to tailor this approach based on what it is that you're trying to do. Let's see. Oh yeah, Josh Smith. So Josh Smith spends $1,800 a month on Zillow. $1,800 a month. That almost ends up being this $25,000 that we calculated out there. $2,000 a month would be $24,000, and you're just right under that there at $1,800 a month. So yeah, these I think with the number, like I said, the numbers that we have in this calculator on the website, they're numbers that we actually went through and did a little bit of research on and tried to get some statistical numbers. They're not statistical averages or anything like that, but they're going to give you a lot better idea if you don't have these statistics to work with. And if you're already doing real estate business and you don't have these statistics, you got to be counting. Count how many closings you get, count how many contracts, count how many appointments you have to have, count how many leads you have, and then count how many contacts it is that you have. So let's try to figure some return on investment from Zillow. We're going to figure return on investment from Zillow, how much money it is that we're going to be basically spending on Zillow, and whether or not that's going to actually make sense for these 485 leads. Zillow says, hey, we'll give you 485 leads, and if you have this all dialed in and figured out here, this is how you make an educated guess on whether or not this money that you're spending in Zillow is going to give you the return on investment that you want to achieve this income goal. Because like I said, Zillow's going to try to make you part of their plan. You don't want to be part of their plan. You want to make Zillow part of your plan. Make it fit to your business if necessary. If they're just cold calling you saying, hey, you should advertise on here, if it fits with your business, great, but don't just fall victim to what it is that they're telling you and whatnot, because if you're going into something like that, you have to be deliberate about your intentions and make sure you're doing the required actions and the required follow-up and keeping track of these numbers so you can understand how to predict your income. We're going to take a quick commercial break real quick. While we're on commercial, like I said, check out that link. I put it in the comments right on there. It's on our Success Center. It's the calculator. Just scroll down to that page. You're going to see the calculator. You can plug in the numbers like we're doing right here. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career, but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106, that's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. We're talking about how to predict your real estate income today. We've been working through these steps. In the comments, there's a link that takes you right to our Success Center calculator that actually breaks this down, where you can just plug in the numbers that are applicable to your business, and it's going to say, okay, if you want to achieve this income goal, you got to have this many leads, you got to talk to this many people, you got to do this many leads a day, and so on and so forth. But before we went on break, what I told you guys we're going to do here is, because one of the ways to jump right to this lead number, and this does require some money to invest on your part here, but once you establish, because I know we did an episode before and we talked about how Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia and Homes.com, how these aren't always the best environments for new agents, because you don't maybe have the reputation that you need in order to have an established presence on these sites. And when you're in a competitive market like this, we've got all kinds of comments coming in. Josh Smith sent in a couple. He's actually said he's spending about $1,800. It looks like he's out in Palm Beach area, and he says there's only about 4 zip codes left in the Palm Beach area, and he says they're all terrible zip codes. And that's just one market in Florida. Tampa's the same way. It's a competitive marketplace, but the reason why these are sold out is they do work if you're doing it correctly. But now what you need to do, because and they just recently updated their platform with Zillow, where it's almost like where you're bidding a higher amount to basically outbid other agents, and so they kind of revamped it in that fashion to make it where they could kind of make more money, but they could have more agents on the platform if they're willing to pay a certain amount of money. But if you have your income dialed in, if you have your business dialed in, and And when you're going into this, you got to make sure that you're plugging in your numbers in the calculator there. Don't just take the percentages that it's giving you there, because maybe you're not that good of a closer and maybe your ratios are different, or maybe you're a phenomenal closer and your ratio is a lot better than these here. So you got to plug in your numbers for your business here. But if you plug it in like this and it tells you that you need 485 leads at $7,200 of agent commission, you get $250,000 of annual gross commission income, and you're plugging in your numbers like this here, what you got to be doing, the math that you need to be doing is basically taking this income amount, the $250,000, taking this $250,000 and dividing it by 485. Because if we need 485 leads to get $250,000, we want to basically figure out what each one of those leads is worth to us in our grand scheme of things. And with this math that we have right here, that breaks down to each lead being worth $515.47. So if each lead is worth $515.47, that gives you a lot of room. If you're bidding $50 per lead on Zillow, or maybe even if it's $100 per lead, you might say to yourself, wow, this is a lot of money. But if you're able to predict your income, and that's what we're trying to figure out here, how to predict your income, you plug in your numbers for your, if you're not already, get started today counting your statistics. How many appointments do you lead to how many contracts to how many closings, so you can predict your income. Because if you're just going into advertising something like this blindly, if you're spending $2,000 a month blindly, that's going to be where you're going to find yourself in a tricky situation, where you could find yourself in trouble if you're not, maybe you mismanage this. Maybe this cost per lead is only $100 and you're bidding $150. Now you're basically losing money through advertising this platform. It can be a great platform, but if you've done the math and you know how this all needs to work out. And what this also tells you, this gives you a little bit of sense of urgency, because out of these 485 leads, like I said, not all the leads are going to result in an appointment. Based on this math here, where we have a 20% lead to appointment ratio, that means that we're only going to have 97 appointments out of these 485 leads. So it's only 97 of them out of 485 that are actually going to be worth something based on these statistics and this math that we have that we've calculated here. But you don't know which 97 it is. So this is where you want to know this number here, because you say, okay, every lead that I get in based on my money-making commission machine is $515.47. If you're spending that amount of money on a lead, you got to be serious about it. When you get a lead that comes into you, you have to follow up. You have to stay in contact with these people, because they might not be ready to buy right there. They may not be ready to purchase right then and there, but they might be ready to purchase in a week, in a couple of weeks. Follow-up is such an essential part of the real estate business, and you're throwing your money away in advertising if you're not properly following up with your clients. So you have to be following up. I'm going to say that one more time just because it is so important. You need to be following up with your clients. You need to be following up with your clients. If you're advertising on a platform and you're spending money to get that lead, and you call them once and you don't return any calls to them or follow up with them whatsoever, you're throwing your money away. Because a lot of times you're going to need some extra processing here. And yes, there's more work involved when you get above the blue line here, but there's still a lot of work involved in basically converting some of these leads. So you got to basically have this return on investment all calculated out. Like I said, go to that calculator. I put it in the comments so you guys can see that and get in there and plug in the numbers for your business. Make sure you do those calculations. If you want to achieve a certain amount of income, you have to know what it takes to get that income. You got to do the math of what it takes to get that income. And when you've done the math, everything's predictable. So that's how to predict your income. It's really as simple. If you want to predict your income, you have to do the math and you have to take the actions. That's all I got for you guys today. If you want to send in any last-minute questions, we're about to call it a wrap for this episode of State of Real Estate. We do this every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Thank you guys all for subscribing. Our YouTube's been blowing up. Our Facebook's been blowing up. The Success Center, it's been crashing because we've gotten so many views on our Success Center. So bear with us while we're upgrading our servers, because it just can't handle the amount of people that are going on there. But make sure you subscribe to this stuff. We do all these every week, every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, and we save save all the recordings, so you can still go in back and rewatch this stuff over and over, learn how to calculate out the commission and use this business plan calculator and all these great tools that we do every single week. This show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. If you want to start your career in real estate or enhance your career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. Or also check us out online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com. That's where you'll find this calculator here and all these other tools. Again, thanks for subscribing, thanks for liking, thanks for commenting, thanks for sharing with your friends, and I will see you guys next Friday, 12 noon. I'm John Christmas. See you guys later.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106, that's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career.
Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching.
When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time